Welcome to Political Trade Secrets, an inside look at campaigns and politics, where we pull back the curtain, look under the hood, and investigate all aspects of politics and how elections are won. Now, here's your host, Dustin Olson.
And welcome to Political Trade Secrets. I'm your host, Dustin Olson. It's great to have everybody joining us from across the internet. We have 12 different platforms that we're live streaming on right now. So wherever you're at, thank you for joining us today. And for this important conversation, we're going to be talking about delegating and elevating to expand and multiply your campaign and whatever effort really that you're involved in. This is a great way to make sure that you are able to be the biggest, baddest operation possible. And I'm glad to have my co-host and compadre, Sean Bartley, joining me. Sean, how the heck are you doing today?
Doing well. Good morning to you. Glad to be here. It's going to be a great conversation.
Well, definitely. And, this is something that many campaigns come up against. They have this experience of hitting the ceiling, and we're going to be talking about that, ways that you can actually do stuff about it. And of course, delegate and elevate should be easy to remember. So hopefully when people are running up against it during their campaign, it'll be an easy way to remember what there is to do. But wherever you're at on the internet, you can join this conversation. If you have questions, comments, whatever you'd like to add to the program, please do so. You can post, if you're watching on YouTube, for instance, you can post a question there. If you're watching on Facebook on one of the different pages, you can post there. If you're watching on Periscope, which is only around for another few weeks, so if you're watching there, please come over and join us at Facebook or on Twitter or on the YouTube. It's a great place to check it out as well. So with that, I'd like to let people know another way to follow us and to be able to post questions. And I know we just sent out the link to everybody through our text community. You can text me personally at 202-918-3345. Again, that's 202-918-3345. If you text that, you'll get a text back that will have a link. You click that link, you opt in, and that way from then on, you're getting an email from me personally or from Sean, and we're whatever's going on in the world, we're going to include you in it and let you know our thoughts on the various different things. Make sure you have the freshest political trade secrets out there, and that way you can be the most effective political leader possible, because that's why we're here. We're here to empower conservatives to be the most effective citizens possible and to be powerful political leaders. And that is our promise to you, because we're here as a movement to reignite American patriotism. So thank you very much for all of you who are joining us here today in that effort. And with that, I also want to mention that if you go to the website, you can join us as a Political Trade Secrets Insider by going to politicaltradesecrets.com. You can sign up there and you'll get exclusive stuff by doing so. So please do check us out there. And with that, Sean, would you like to tell people how else they can be involved in our whole movement?
Absolutely. Look, are you thinking about running for office or what it takes to be a powerful political leader in your neck of the woods, your community, your state, country, even the world? Reach out to us. It's olsonstrategies.com, OLSON strategies.com. You can email me at Sean, SEAN, at olsonstrategies.com or Dustin at olsonstrategies.com and get that conversation scheduled today. Those are the conversations that we really enjoy, helping people get on their journey for what it's going to take to be successful in running for office, or whatever they might be looking to do in their community, in their state. So reach out to us at olsonstrategies.com. Also, we're proud to be sponsored by Grassfire. What do they do? Canvassing, petitioning, live calling. This is your opportunity. Look, you get one shot at a first impression. Make it count with Grassfire. Canvassing, that's on the doorstep. Petitioning, it could be on the doorstep or in front of the grocery store, and live calling, that's over the phone, but it's really all that one-on-one, human-to-human interaction. Nobody does it better than Grassfire, so that's www.grassfire.us. And then we're also proud to be sponsored. They fuel Tencent texting.com. What does Tencent texting do? It is really your way to connect with your voters, your constituents on their mobile device right where they are. Look, 82% of people open every text message they get. Why not make it count with the tools that only Tencent texting brings to you? Image, GIF, short video right there in the body of the text message with an actual message underneath it. You can be in communication with those folks and have a back and forth if you so choose. So it's tencenttexting.com. Go visit them today. And then I'm looking forward to this conversation today because I think it's going to be a great one. And, I don't make too many promises on this show, Dustin, but I am going to promise today that this is going to be more enjoyable than being on Biden's Secret Service detail. I guarantee it.
Yes. Well, yeah, it depends. Do you mean, do you think it was one of the dogs that bit somebody and got sent back to Delaware? Or do you think maybe it was foggy old Joe that bit somebody and got sent back to Delaware?
Well, he only likes to bite people on camera, as I understand. So
that's true. He's not going to do that in private. He's going to save that for some swearing-in ceremony or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, I was just thinking not just the dog thing, but it's been said that the Bidens like to walk around naked.
Yes.
I would just think that if I got a way out of that detail, I'd take it.
You're not supposed to tell everybody. That's Washington's big secret.
Oh,
but, yes. His Secret Service nickname or name is Celtic or Celtic, I believe. But they have a second one that they call him. And anyway, it also starts with a C. So, well, that's very interesting. Well, thank you for bringing up that topic. That's,
sorry. Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely right. The Secret Service, I'm sure, are not. I bet most of them would love to delegate and elevate as well in their situation. They'd like to move on. We've talked to a lot of people through the years who are part of not necessarily Secret Service, but part of security details. And you get to know people really well, and some a little bit better than others. And these folks are amazing people who are willing to they're there to protect the office. And not everybody who's in those roles are really worthy of that job and treat their people well. There's one former governor who is known for slapping his state troopers, which is a pretty remarkable thing. The people who are there to protect you can't protect themselves against you. It's not a great situation. But so a couple of things I want to make sure people know. We're going to be having, so today we're talking about delegating, elevating. We're going to talk about the background to that, a great book that's the thinkers who came up with that phrase. But tomorrow we're going to have Naji Falali on to talk about opposition research, the black magic of politics and campaigns, and that's going to be interesting. Naji is a young phenom who's really kind of skyrocketed to being one of the top opposition researchers out there. Really does a great job. And then we're also going to have James Martin of Rally and Rally Corp on Thursday, I guess it is. We're going to be talking about texting for fundraising, specifically around developing relationships with your donors through texting, and that's going to be interesting as well. But what are some of your thoughts on both Naji and James?
Well, I'm really looking forward to both discussions, and that's why it's really going to be a great week here. Just this idea, and I don't think people really get it till they're in the campaign and they've done research, as I would call it, into not just the record of your opponents, but yourself. Can give you a full view of the campaign, the playing field. We talk about the you on you, the them on you, the
you on them and them on them.
Yes. So when we talk about those four things, that is one area where research can really just give you the full picture. And we'll tell some stories about how it's really made a difference in some of the campaigns we've done tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that. And I really look forward to getting Naji's thoughts on how this really, how it makes a difference, and then also just how it's not necessarily the silver bullet that
Mm-hmm.
that people think it's going to be.
Yeah.
When they,
Sometimes it can be, though.
yep,
Sometimes it can
that's right.
be pretty remarkable what you find out about your opponent. You're like, why did they think they were going to run for office?
Yep.
But there you are, and it makes a difference in some campaigns. Some campaigns you also need to do it on yourself. It's
Yes.
something that I'm sure we'll talk with them about as well, and how important that can be for your campaign as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And then on Thursday with James Martin of Rally, which the technology company, they specialize in communications in general, and so any of your thoughts on that? Because I really do think this is the next real phase for campaigns is texting. TencentTexting.com is a sponsor of the program. It's largely because we were looking for a good texting tool. Before it had been way too expensive. We're paying sometimes 30 cents per text, which is ridiculous. And then Tencent Texting was able to revolutionize that. And it really, I've seen Sarah Huckabee Sanders is using some texting to be able to develop relationships with people for her campaign for governor. And I think that's kind of the next wave.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think about how you use texting in everyday life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not send a text, never expect a response, never give a response back if somebody responds to you. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the way texting goes, but it's the way that a lot of people have set up political texting, like this kind of this one-way thing. I do think developing that and really setting it up in a way that's dynamic
Mm-hmm.
for both sides is something that's going to be critical. And so I'm really looking forward to talking to James about that in particular, and how setting these campaigns up, particularly for fundraising, um, allows people to really be something that we talk about, a part of something bigger than themselves.
Yep.
Where, you know, fundraising some of the other ways, particularly what we see in a lot of organizations in particular, right? They send a letter, they get donations back sometimes, and that's about it. And that's that's kind of what they count on. And then they have a few donors that they actually cultivate. Well, imagine being able to cultivate donors at every level. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's possible here.
And it's actually the case that with texting that fundraising, you actually get a higher dollar amount by text than you do by mail or other means. Even if you are, the candidate who's following up with people, you're likely going to get a bigger donation when you do it online, which is pretty remarkable. I
Yeah.
think it's like $40 or something. He'll tell us what this is, but it's like $40 by mail and it's $107 by text, I think is
Oh, wow.
the numbers. Yeah. So looking forward to that. That's going to be good. But let's go into this conversation here. And I'm going to pull up the texting for us. Speaking of texting, ways that you can be involved, in ways you can stay in touch with us. This is really good. One of the things I found is when we do the text out. So I'll send a text personally to everybody, and I will, whatever's going on in the news, or we'll send something out, or maybe we have an old episode that pertains to something that's going on. We'll send it out to people, and then we get a response back, and I can have conversations with the individuals who are part of our community throughout the day. We've sent out some before the show telling people what the topic's going to be, and then the folks in the community give us their thoughts, their questions, which then really improves our episodes because we're bringing their thoughts into stuff, which already it looks like we have a few people who have made some comments here. And I'm going to read this one as we are about to go into this topic. The most difficult thing about running for office is finding volunteers and those people to help, especially during busy election cycles when so many other campaigns are looking for help as well. This is going to be a great topic to discuss to get more ideas on how to find solutions to this common problem. That's a really good statement, and thank you for that. We're gonna actually address that as we go through this. So when I think about this topic, every campaign has these moments where they feel like they're on the brink of disaster, maybe, or they just feel like they can't break out of their shell, or they just have too much stuff to do, or they can't seem to get things off of their plate. All these things that people run up against, and that is something that I think every campaign deals with it some level. There's going to be different ways people do that. But I think about delegating and elevating, it's critical for campaigns if they're going to be successful. If you want to be able to expand and multiply, I have there's this old campaign guy that I knew many, many years ago, 20 years ago. And he said, if you're not growing, you're dying. And that is an overstatement, but it's also, there's some truth to that. If you're not actually growing your campaign, you're really not expanding. You're not multiplying. You're not building a movement. And every campaign is really interesting. We talk about Pepsi and Coke sometimes. If Pepsi was ever running for president, if they've been running for president for the last 100 years, they would have been like a Ross Perot coming in a distant third, because they've never been able to get to 50% plus one of the market. And that's what you have to do in a campaign. You have to create a startup, start from zero, and go all the way to 50% plus one of the market. And it's not easy to do that. And what's going to happen is you're going to have to expand and multiply your operation many times. And every single time you're going to go through growth pains as you do that. So what are some of your thoughts about this topic as we kind of describe it for people?
Yeah, I think being able to do this well is one of the most important things a campaign, an organization, a person can have. I think, I've had it said to me, I've said it to others, let's face it, we're going to die with things that still need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So let's, so you want to focus on the things that are most important. And in a campaign, to get the things done that need to get done, you are going to have to expand beyond yourself. And it's not a surprise if you're up to something big in the world, being able to expand beyond yourself anyway is really what a lot of our conversations about. I think this one in particular today is really going to focus on how you can really take this idea and really take flight.
Yeah.
And that's what's possible.
Well, so every campaign is going to have this. There are going to be a couple different ways this shows up for their campaigns. So it's either you are going to have a challenge with not being able to get people going with tasks. If you have so many people coming in, or you are holding all the responsibility with one person. That's oftentimes going to be a challenge, and this is what you need. So I'm going to bring up. So this is the book that the term Delegate and Elevate comes from. Is from the book Traction by Gino Wickman, which is an excellent book, and people should check it out. Highly recommend it. But Gino wrote this book really about their system of how they go about stuff, and they specifically have in the book the 5 leadership abilities, and this is one of those. And really, the reason they created the
the 5 leadership abilities being simplify, delegate and elevate, predict, systemize, and structure. And those are going to be important. So as we're looking at this, and all 5 of these are really meant to help you break through when you hit the ceiling. And we'll do some of the other abilities on other episodes. But for this episode, really focusing on the idea of delegate and elevate. And I think, Dustin, this goes along with the idea of don't manage your own campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's a critical thing here. And I think particularly being able to take the things that we've talked about this on other episodes, right? The things that candidates can do better than anybody for their campaign, And being able to do those for things and free yourself up to do those things is really the mark of a campaign well run, and being able to do that. So that's one of
That's
the
the Elevate. So this is so I heard that you went through the 5 leadership abilities,
yes.
and specifically just going into detail on the Delegate and Elevate. These are the points that Gino Wickman and his team put together. Delegate and elevate to your true skill set, which is what you're just describing with don't manage your own campaign if you're a candidate. Also, if you're a campaign manager and you are able to get people into the other roles, which we're going to talk about in a moment, let you manage the campaign, and then you have other people doing those different roles. And then true growth is a series of delegating and elevating, which that's the thing. Every campaign is going to grow very quickly if they're going to be successful. Either you're putting a lid on your own campaign, or you are just not effectively all the people. Like maybe you're a magnet, your campaign's just going gangbusters, and there's all these people, and they're all kind of just waiting around to find out what to do. And that's a pretty common thing too. If you're onto something, but you just don't know how to get people to be able to make the difference. And this is a true statement, and you were kind of referring to it with the idea that you'll die with things to do. Like there's never going to get done with everything on your list. You only have 100% of your working time. If it takes 120% to do the job well, you must delegate and elevate the extra 20%. And it's just that simple. You might even be better at that extra 20% than the person that you're delegating to. But at the end of the day, if you don't delegate it, it's just not getting done. And then the people you delegate to and elevate must be the right people in the right seats. We can talk a little bit about what that means. They must share your core values, and they must get what there is to do, want to do it, and have the capacity to do it. And then this other last idea, which is let go of the vine, which is probably I don't know if we've ever told a candidate that, but that's a really good there's a whole story that goes along with that, if you want to share it at some point.
Yeah, and so people know we actually use this in our business. This is one of the, we really work on trying to use all of the leadership abilities, and it's one that we're in fact working on. You hear us mentioning it. One of the ways that we try to do that is through our intern and fellowship program, and really creating the mechanisms so that people can get involved and be elevated and delegated too. So,
yeah, and by the way, just to be really clear, this is a case of physician heal thyself. We deal with this all the time, like the ability to stop and pause and to actually take a moment to actually delegate something to somebody in such a way that they actually have what there is to do, and they have the tools they need to be successful, and you have some patience to walk them through that. It oftentimes requires that you slow down for a minute and you actually really truly hand over something so that person can be successful. And then once you go through that, it might be a little bit frustrating for a short period of time. Then you will all of a sudden, when you relocated that purpose to somebody else, you then expand what's possible. You multiply what's possible for the organization. And this is something I would say to delegate and elevate, just like the 5 leadership abilities are what we would call one of our strategic distinctions. And it's a form of a heuristic, and a heuristic is really just a simple kind of rule of thumb that gives you a way to be successful. It may not be the most optimal thing, because there's going to be times where maybe delegating and elevating isn't the right thing to do, but in most cases, when you're bumping up against the ceiling, this is going to be the thing that you want to do at that time. So, Sean, anything else that you'd like to say as we set up the conversation?
Yeah, what I would say is that you were so right. I mean, it's something that we struggle with all the time, because being able to get the really set up the ability to delegate and elevate, and we're going to talk about that a little later on in the show, is something that Does take a little bit of patience. And, I think in the description we said, are you hitting the ceiling? Are you feeling frustrated, overwhelmed? The question is, do you want to take that feeling of frustration and move it where you might be frustrated in a different way, but you can either be frustrated forever with the way things are going, or you can
short-term pain.
Yeah, that's right.
Short-term pain. Yeah, it really is the whole, ice cream cone a day or a bicycle later.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can have a little bit of pain right now, but then in the long term, you're going to actually have the benefit. And that is what we would recommend. And it's actually not just what we recommend. If you want to be successful, if you want to be able to expand and multiply, this is what's required. And every campaign is going to have this. You're going to be a successful campaign. You're going to have some good challenges where you're going to have to deal with this throughout the campaign. And most campaigns, unlike most businesses, most campaigns are going to go through this iteration maybe 4, 5, 6 times. If you're a year-long campaign, you're going to constantly be adding new blood, and it's really important. If you can add new fresh blood throughout the campaign, it brings in extra energy. I've been in the situation in the last week of a campaign where we're still bringing in new people and handing over what we're going to talk about in a moment, which is accountabilities. We're handing over accountabilities in the campaign to new people, and they're running with it. They may only work on the campaign for a week. Of course, in that last week of the campaign, it can feel like they've been there forever because they're really in the trenches with you and the most important part of the campaign. But you have the sense that it's really helpful to the people who've been there for the year or the 2 years, because you have this new energy, new people showing up, fresh blood that's giving you a little bit of a oomph as you go into that last a bit of the campaign. And sometimes, with the Republican National Committee, I don't know if they do this as much as they used to, but they had the Marshals program where they'd send out marshals across the country, and the marshals would bring in a little bit of extra energy at the end. They're people who are talented folks who are, they might be professionals of one kind or another, but they come in, they help out with the grassroots in the last few days, and they can take on leadership roles. And it really does add a little bit of oomph to the end of the campaign.
I'm glad you brought up energy. I think that's an important thing to look at. That is something that is going to get added when you add people, and that's an exciting thing to have happen, and that's an exciting thing of growth. So, whatever other feelings you might have, and there's going to be some things to let go of. Let go of the vine. As you're doing that, just get that there is some new energy, some excitement. People who, while we try to see things newly and take things on newly, when you actually bring a new person into your organization, you're going to have that. Like they are, almost naturally going to be seeing things newly, or at least from a different perspective that you're going to get to your organization. So embrace that.
Well, that's excellent. I'm going to show everybody what I would consider to be kind of a standard organizational chart. It's not perfect. It's not the exact what everything is. And make it, it's one of my nice little red and blue diagrams. So we talk a lot about accountabilities on a campaign, and for us, I'll come back to this in a second, but for us, an accountability is something that you own. And when we define accountability, we define it as ownership, and it's either owning a project, a role, a task for that person to own. We're going to talk about staff, and then we're going to talk about volunteers, and you're going to treat these a little bit differently, but you want them to own that. And that they may not do all of the work underneath that role or that task, but they're going to be the ones who actually own that it's going to get done, or it's going to be handled, or they're going to be in charge of that. And the key thing about accountability is, well, Sean, you want to tell people what the key thing about accountability is?
Well, I would say that it keeps you on task.
Yeah.
It has somebody else there. It actually keeps something in existence, as we might say. When I really look at this, the idea of accountability, um, I'll just, I don't know, an example. I think I've mentioned we're playing the game around my health, and the game that you created, and in playing that, I can say every day, "Oh, hey, I'm going to go to the gym." That's something, and me saying it to myself um, is doesn't make it so. But when I'm telling somebody else, "Hey, I'm going to the gym today," make sure you ask me about it. Uh, then, then there's some accountability around it. You want to make
Mhm.
sure that you're being held to that, and then there. One of the things to think about, though, when you're kind of looking at this, is that um, the reason accountability needs ownership is that if 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 two people own it, nobody owns it.
Mhm.
Uh, you know,
Yeah,
what?
that's the key about accountability. If you have multiple people, so when we say this, like one person is accountable for it. If you have multiple people accountable for it, you can have multiple people who are they can be responsible for it, and we'd say that responsibility is being cause of the matter, and then accountability is ownership. And it's important to make the distinction because you can have a lot of people who are helping and a lot of people who are, taking it upon themselves to make a difference in this part of the campaign. However, you need to have one person who owns it such that they are ensuring that it's getting done, and they're the one who will be accountable for that. And if you have two people own it, then there's really nobody owns it. And just the real practical nature of that in a campaign is that it doesn't get done
Yeah,
typically if you
yeah,
have multiple people accountable.
yeah. In those situations, you might as well have no people accountable
Hmm.
for it. Like no, because no one has ownership, and it's kind of like the example, right? If someone's getting attacked and there's one person there,
Hmm.
they're going to go. They're more likely to ask for help or intervene or do something in that situation. But if someone's attacked on a crowded street, it's more likely that no one does anything because
Hmm.
they think, oh,
There's the famous story from the 1940s of a lady who was being attacked in a very crowded neighborhood of New York City, and this is what the study on this is based on, this story, and how there was something like 40 or so people who were witnesses, and not a single person did anything. And it's why, just as this has nothing to do with the topic, but if you are in a situation where you need help, it is psychologically the most important thing to do is to point at one person and say, "You call 911." If you're able to do that and you're the one in the situation, or if you're someone helping, if you point one to one person and say, "You are," you call 911, that person is going to do it because they now are accountable for it. They own it. If they don't do it, then they're accountable. It's a pretty remarkable thing, and it goes to this idea that one person needs to own it. A lot of people can be responsible for helping make it happen, but one person owns it. They're the one who's accountable for it. And the reason I bring that up is, you know, this is just a basic org chart. An accountability chart is what we call it. So you have the candidate, of course, is at the top, and then you have the campaign manager under that person. I always have, a general consultant's a good idea that works with the candidate and the campaign manager. But then the campaign manager will have underneath that, you'll have someone in the fundraising shop, you'll have someone in the political shop, you'll have someone in the communication shop, you'll have someone in the scheduling and or let's see if I got that, the scheduling shop. So Sean, anything you want to say about just kind of the standard org chart? There's going to be ways, campaigns, the large campaigns, going to maybe have a deputy campaign manager. They're going to have like a bunch of consultants who are over here helping with various parts of it, like an opposition researcher potentially, and things like that.
yeah. What I would say is that um, I think as a basic organization chart, these are important, and um, it is possible that someone sits in multiple areas.
Yeah, they have multiple accountabilities. You can have one person have multiple accountabilities. You can't have multiple people have one accountability.
That's right. That's right. And so and then just get the idea though, under that, under political, right? You might have somebody who's in charge of the phone banking, and then you might have someone that's in charge of the canvassing, and then you might have someone that's in charge of um uh could be tech.
Volunteer coordinating.
Exactly, could be volunteers, it could be um actually the political events, and then working with the scheduler on those things, or some of those meet and greets, if that's what you're doing, to meet people out in the neighborhood. So
You have a
just
coalitions director.
mhm. So just think about, there's gonna be stuff underneath that, and what you want to do is really, I think that's a great way to look at a campaign.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the campaign, you might have one person who owns all the accountabilities,
Yeah,
and that's just not natural. If a candidate has the moment the candidate has the idea that I'm going to run for office, they own every single one of these.
that's right.
Like everything that's possibly could be done in the campaign at that moment, we they own all of it, and their job then is to delegate and elevate, because they need to get to their highest unique ability within the campaign, and that's going to be ultimately, what would you say is the most highest unique abilities of the candidate, no matter how good of a candidate they are.
Yeah, fundraising. I mean,
Yeah. Yep. Fundraising, and talking to the press in some cases, and um, really those are the big ones. Those are the two. So healthy campaigns will have at least one person accountable in each of these spots, and not every campaign is going to get to do that. And there's going to be times when a candidate um, gets that they are not supposed to manage their campaign, and yet here we are, and they're managing their campaign, and they feel like they're stuck, and they're like, oh, they feel even guilty about it because they know they're not supposed to manage their campaign. They know that it's not the most optimal thing, and yet they feel like they're stuck and they're managing their own campaign. So a couple of things um, that could be going on there, and some advice that I would give a candidate who finds himself in that position. They know they shouldn't be doing it, but they're doing it. Is that first to look to see if it's actually true that they are the only one who can manage their campaign at that time, or um, are they maybe trying to get a sense of control in the middle of the chaos? That's a common thing. Or if they're trying to be their own scheduler, that's something a candidate might try to do, is they'll try to be their own scheduler and to get a sense of control. And so are they being a control freak? Are they not giving people a chance to fail or succeed in their campaign? Are they scared? Are you being scared or frozen in fear? So you're so afraid in the campaign, like you just can't get anything done. You're not making anything happen. Are you being lazy? And when I say lazy, I mean you don't want to take the time to get someone up to speed. We just talked about that a little bit. Um, and then all these, there's probably other ways that might be getting in the way. And most of these could also apply to a campaign manager who's not handing over the reins to the people in the different operations within the campaign. Sean, what are some of the other things you would say to a candidate who is caught in that moment? They know they're not supposed to be their own campaign manager, but here we are, and they feel like they don't have anybody they can hand it
well,
over to.
I just want to talk a little bit about kind of what that ends up looking like, right? Yeah, I think right. You said, yeah, they feel guilty about it. The other thing they like to do is blame whoever else might be around them
Mm-hmm.
for not for however the situation happened. Like, I have to do this because of everybody else. If you hear yourself saying that, thinking
Mm-hmm.
that, you want to maybe take a look around and say, is it possible that I just haven't given enough of this over? And so, because one of the things that can happen is, if you are not, um, fully giving these things over, you're really tying the hands of the people that you are trying that you say you want to delegate and elevate.
Hmm.
So, and when you do that, it really stymies the ability for progress to happen on those areas.
Yep.
So, so you really want to be looking out for that, because the blame game is not far behind generally in those things. And when it's there, just got to get look. And there's nothing wrong with it being there. You just want to get that that's there for you. Like, I'm laying this at someone else's doorstep, even though I still have yet to actually share my calendar with anybody.
That's happened before where we're like a month or two in and that's not happened yet. Those
Yeah,
are candidates that are quickly becoming irrelevant,
yeah,
unfortunately. But that's the first place I would look. Those various areas. Ultimately, you know that you need to figure it out. And what we're describing is if you're trying to do 120%, using 120% of your time, that's not possible. So whatever that extra 20% is, even if you gave it to somebody else who is like half as effective at it as you are, they're going to still get the actual extra 10%
that's
done.
right.
So you just have to get that. It's hard to do. It's hard to hand over the reins, especially if you feel that you could do it better. The truth is, a candidate's most likely going to be able to do a lot of the stuff a little bit better than the staff because the candidate knows their own mind. But that's just is what it is. And so, one of the other things that we do oftentimes, if you don't have somebody who is quite up to speed to be the campaign manager, as general consultants, as the strategists for the campaigns, we have decades of experience and we are pretty good at coming in. As long as you have somebody who's eager, willing to be trained, who's hardworking, but they're a newbie, we can come in, we can train them up, and we can graft our long experience on top of their willingness to work hard and be on the ground. And we can actually complement that and give somebody who is willing to learn and willing to do the work the ability to have the benefit of our experience. And that's one way that we deal with that situation. So there's going to be some way to figure this out because not every single campaign is going to be able to get some 30-year veteran campaign manager. Those don't really exist much anymore
Hmm.
out there. Not very many people want to do that as a job. So let's go to elevate to your unique ability. Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, well, this idea of delegating to your unique ability, you got to get that. So another trap that candidates can fall into is say, well, I have a unique ability in all these things. Um, Particularly if people have been in and around politics and then they run for office,
Mhm.
they go, well, I get that most people shouldn't be their own campaign manager, but I've managed campaigns.
Mhm.
So I'm different than everybody else. And so we've found that particularly with people who have actually been around politics, that is a hard thing to let go of.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean you don't weigh in on things, but you've got to actually let go of the reins, because
Mhm.
your unique ability, even if you are one of the greatest campaign managers in the world, your ability to manage your own campaign, you are not the best person for that.
Yeah.
Just, I hate to tell you.
It would be, for us, it would be hard. It would be hard to not want to manage our own campaigns if we were running, because we are going to be better than 90% of the people out there, and yet we would not be able to see ourselves clearly, and we would not be able to think clearly. It would be all very personal, and it would be oh so easy to get caught up in the managing and not to do the thing, even if you're not that good of a campaign or if you're not that good of a candidate. Like there's some people who are not that good at, say, fundraising calls. They're new to it. They haven't done it much, but it doesn't matter if you are a new candidate with very little experience raising money. You will always be the best person to ask for money for your campaign, and you will be more effective at it, even with your lack of experience, And even if you're terrible at it, as a candidate, you will still be better at it than the 30-year fundraising veteran who has all the contacts in the world. The truth is, 90% of the time, you are going to be the better person to ask for money for your own campaign, because that's just that's the nature of it's your candidacy, it's your message, it's your campaign. You're the one the donors want to have a relationship with. You're going to be the best person to do that. Period.
Yep.
A reporter's not going to be interested in talking to the campaign manager for every single issue for the campaign. It's going to make a difference to talk to the campaign manager or the communications director sometimes. However, it's not going to make sense all the time. We can actually watch it right now. People keep asking, when is Joe Biden going to do his own press conference? And it's just going to keep getting to be a question that people ask over and over again. And with his flub yesterday, where he doesn't even know where the Pentagon is, he doesn't know the name of his Secretary of Defense, and he did not recover particularly well with that. It's really uncomfortable, but that's just going to become more of an issue. And it's not just because of his malfunctioning. It's because people expect the person in charge to speak to the press at some level. So these are two things that no matter how much you want to delegate them, you are always going to be the one who's uniquely capable to deliver your own message. So you're going to have the management, you're going to have the writing of the text messages and the dealing with the social media and all that stuff. Hand that over to somebody else, because they can do that for you.
Exactly right. So you really want to take a look at it's. So, when we say elevate to your unique ability, it can also be elevate to your stature, or we talked about being yesterday, and who you're being. Well, okay, who are you being in this situation? You need to elevate yourself to leader. What the leader does is generates the revenue and shares the vision. And what are your opportunities to do that? Well, in a political campaign, it is fundraising, and it is talking with the press.
And it's like an 80-20 on that too.
Yeah.
Or maybe a 90-10. So this is just a simple thing for candidates to know. Candidates let the campaign manager manage. And then for the campaign managers let the communications director communicate, let the fundraising director fundraise, and let the volunteer coordinator coordinate. And let the volunteers volunteer. So that's really, it's that simple. If you can get to a campaign that you're actually implementing that, there's going to be challenges along the way. But if you get to that, every time you go through these, you hit the ceiling, and then you break through, and you have this expanded, the possibility of the campaign, the power of the campaign is expanded, and then you'll hit the ceiling again, and then you'll break through, and you'll bring new people in. You just keep iterating. That's how you have a movement. That's how you have something actually grow and really catch fire and get everywhere, is if you're able to have people who are excited about what you're up to be able to be productive. Even if they're not going to be the absolute best person ever at whatever task, if they're doing it as opposed to the candidate, you're going to have a lot more happening in your campaign.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And actually, we got a couple of great comments here. Go with the last one first. If you can't delegate, how can you lead? That was something we were talking about earlier. It's really definitely part of being a leader. A candidate has one job to do well, be the candidate. They need a campaign manager. And then they asked a question, recruiting more campaign managers. We're always looking for campaign managers that we can work with, and people who are interested in being campaign managers. So don't make sure that you reach out to us. You can connect with us on the community line that's on the screen, and then also 202-918-3345, or you can email us. Go to our website. It's Olson olsonstrategies.com, OLSON strategies.com. You can email me, Sean, SEAN, at olsonstrategies.com for that, or Dustin at olsonstrategies.com, and we'd love to have that part of the conversation with you as well. So yeah, great questions there, and a good point.
Yeah, and so the next place we talked about staff, we talked a little bit about volunteers, but the next place is how to have volunteers be part of this delegating and elevating. So when you're handing over an accountability in the campaign, so if you chunk down every task, maybe project or what have you, into bite-sized accountabilities. These are things that people are a single thing that they're accountable. The more specific and pared down you can make it. If and Sean, help me if I'm not making, if it's not super clear, but the idea is that if you give somebody a whole bunch of things that they're accountable for and they're a volunteer, you're going to get maybe a few of those, probably the ones that they're most interested in. You might get a little bit of that done. But if you can get down to like one task or one project that you can hand over to a volunteer and have it really be clear that they own it, that they're actually accountable for it. If they don't lead on that issue, or if they don't follow through on it, it's not happening. If you can make it really bite-sized and give it to them, and you do that with a lot of volunteers, you're going to explode the power of your campaign and how much it gets done with your campaign.
Yeah, I'd call it the law of diminishing returns, right? You give somebody 10 things to do as a volunteer in their spare time. They're going to move the things up that they think are the most important, and you're going to have several things that don't get done. Where if you have, kind of the idea of you have one job, and again, and this really goes to the idea of accountability and ownership. Like, no kidding, we want you to own this. So, be the phone bank coordinator. And, back when people actually got together in phone banks, it would be sure that people came in, maybe communicating with the volunteer coordinator to do so. But, the way campaigns are now, it's reaching out to the people who are making calls or have made calls, see what they're experiencing, make sure that they've got all the technology worked out so that it works from home. Doing those types of things is just one example of that.
To that point, the phone bank, a lot of the most effective campaigns or most effective party organizations, they actually have groups, or when I say groups, like they have a leader of a group, like the chair of the such and such county Republican Women's Auxiliary is, that chair owns Thursday evenings at the phone bank, and she's going to make sure that she has as many of her members there as possible. And then maybe on Tuesdays they have the Republican club of such and such county. The deputy chair of that organization is the one who's accountable for it, and she makes sure that there's people who are part of that Tuesday night, and so on and so forth. You just keep building out. You give people specific nights. That's one way people have ownership, and that way you're not in charge of the entire phone bank, but you're actually owning something. If Tuesday night doesn't happen, that deputy chair of the gun rights group is the one who didn't get it done.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the more you can slice it down and still have it work is really the key. So I think that's a great example. One of the things we talk about is one of the things that happens in every campaign is yard signs. So, having somebody that's in charge of, okay, you're getting them out, you're the one who's making sure they get put in yards and whatever else,
because if you don't have one person owning that, then everybody is going to be owning that, and that's all the campaign's going to do.
Yep. And they're going to drive to yards that already have it. Say, what is going on here? So yeah, that you want to, and again, this goes to some of the other things that we talked about earlier, systemizing and some other things that we'll get into another time, simplifying.
So Pat says they win elections. He's if you talk to some folks, I know he means that as a joke. So that's great. Yes, some people have the idea that yard signs win elections. We actually had a candidate say that to us recently,
Mhm.
and shocking. She knows better, but she still thinks that that's what happened. Anyway, so if you go back to the staff
Yep.
chart, the accountability chart, as we call it. And let's say you are in that situation that we proposed earlier, where you are a candidate and you know you're not supposed to be managing your own campaign, but you maybe don't have the money. Some states have really really restrictive fundraising limits, so you're not going to be able to hire somebody. Well, then what do you do when you know like this is what generally a campaign that's going to be healthy is going to have somebody in each of these spots? Well, you might end up hiring the consultant, which is ultimately in many cases going to be cheaper than hiring a full-time staff person because they're not going to be doing your campaign all the time. And then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to think about what are all the responsibilities, what are all the accountabilities, I guess, underneath campaign manager, and then underneath each of these things. And you're going to have to chunk those out as best as you can into small bite-sized accountabilities. And then if you can give those to volunteers, you might have the effect of, we have one campaign manager who's accountable for all of it and managing all of it. And yet the specific responsibilities that a campaign manager might be doing are being handed out to a lot of different volunteers who own just a small sliver of it. That's one way to do it. It takes something to manage that, though, because you have a lot of people you're working with. But that might be another way you do it when you have to have volunteers do most of these jobs.
Yeah. Well, I think when you're talking in a budget situation like that, the logic in doing it that way, and there's infinite ways you can do this, but the logic in doing it that way in particular is that some of the things that you might miss by trying somebody who's never or hasn't really managed campaigns before, they're not going to think of everything that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could have full things just fall through the cracks, and you might get to the end of the campaign and go, I didn't even know we could do that. So you want to limit those situations so that you can at least have an eyes wide open. And then there might be some things that you say, okay, well, we don't necessarily have the manpower or ability to do this, so we're going to have to come up with another way to take on this part of the campaign, whatever it might be. So.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to delegate and expand and maximize and multiply your campaign, this is the way to do it. Delegate and elevate. Delegate accountabilities and elevate to your unique ability, whatever that is for whatever role you are in the campaign. This is something everybody will need to take on to be able to expand the influence and effectiveness of your campaign. It's what winning campaigns do. So this is get another comment here. I think with volunteers, you can give some of them something for merit down the road as funds become available. Yeah, that's definitely the case. There's going to be ways to reward people, and the more you can be specific with them about what they are to do and how they can help, the more likely they're going to be able to accomplish those things. So, Sean, any last thoughts as we wrap up the expanding and multiplying your campaign by delegating and elevating?
Well, just know by employing this that you really are giving people an access to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And so, is it difficult to give up the reins sometimes? Of course.
Mm-hmm. Does it take work to have to explain something that you don't even have to think about anymore because you've done it so many times? Yes.
Yeah. Anybody who's driven in a car with me sitting in the passenger side knows that sometimes it's hard to just give up the reins, but
Mm-hmm.
but it is something that when you delegate and elevate, it really does make a difference. And so really, and giving up some of that control can really be freeing.
It takes something. Well, and it really is leadership. It's one of the comments that someone made is that if you can't delegate, how can you lead? And this is really, it's important to be able to be a leader. It is going to take, if you see something that's possible, it's going to take being able to communicate that to others in such a way that they're willing to take action to further it. And that's how your vision actually becomes reality. So it goes to exactly what the truth is there, is that if you are a leader, if you're seeking to be a powerful political leader, you're going to see something that's possible out there. And then you're going to let people know how they can actually do something to bring it about. If it's something that they want to see happen too, this is what they can do to make sure that it becomes reality and that you're able to communicate that to folks. So if you're interested in all these sorts of fresh political trade secrets, if you want to be able to be a part of the conversation, if you'd like to ask questions or pose ideas, after the show, go to text me 202-918-3345. Again, 202-918-3345. You'll get a text back, opt in, and then we'll be able to have that communication anytime. You can add to the show. You can ask questions, everything else, and we'll be letting you know as what shows are coming up. You can also go to our website at politicaltradesecrets.com, and you can sign up there to be a Political Trade Secrets insider, get all the exclusive stuff. We'll be sending out some a book or two soon that you can enjoy that goes along with what we're talking about. And that's a great way to be a part of it. And then, we'll probably be asking people their questions that they're going to have for Najee Falali tomorrow with our opposition research conversation. And then for James Martin on Thursday, as we talk about using texting as a way to really cultivate relationships with your donors and how that can best work for campaigns and candidates and parties. So those are all ways that you can be a part of the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to those shows tomorrow, particularly as we expand and multiply by 50% our payments for the next 2 days. So I think
that's right.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And look, are you thinking about running for office? Are you want to know how you can make the biggest impact in your community as a powerful political leader? Reach out to us. It's olsonstrategies.com, OLSON strategies.com. You can email me, Sean, SEAN, at olsonstrategies.com, or Dustin at olsonstrategies.com, and start that conversation today. We're also proud to be sponsored by Grassfire. What do? It's all of the one-on-one, human-to-human interactions that a campaign has. Look, you get one shot at a first impression. Make it count. On the doorstep, in front of the grocery store, or over the phone, canvassing, petitioning, live calling. It's www.grassfire.us. And then they also fuel TencentTexting.com. This is your way to connect with your constituents, your voters, where they are. Look, people open text messages. They get them. They like to open them. But are they impactful? Are they making a difference? Or are they turning your voters off? You want to make sure that they are actually making a positive impact for your campaign, and that's what Tencent Texting does better than anybody in the business. So go to TencentTexting.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And thank you to all those in the Share Force. Join Share Force, make a difference, and help reignite American patriotism. Thank you to everybody who shared the program today. I'm sure one of the many members of the Share Force can let us know how many we had today, how many shares, but I do think it's quite a few already today. Yeah. So thank you to everybody who shared the program. And who knows what conservative out there you are going to inspire to be the most effective citizen they can be, or inspire them to be a powerful political leader for their community and for their state and for our country in order to help us all reignite American patriotism. And it looks like we have 67 shares today. So thank you to everybody for doing that and the difference that it makes, because who knows who you're going to inspire, who you're going to breathe some life into their political activism, that they can make a difference for our country as well. So thank you for that. And of course, if you want to join the Share Force, you can go to politicaltradesecrets.com. You can reach out to us. You can text us, all the different ways. You can do a bat signal. I don't care. As long as you're getting in front of us and you're saying, I want to be a part of this movement to reignite American patriotism, we will have you. And if you would like to be an intern or a fellow in our, be a part of our efforts to inspire other political leaders, please do reach out to us about that as well. We have a number of folks who are coming on as interns and fellows right now, and it's really inspiring to see the kind of difference that they're already making.
Yep. And we did get one last question. Do you help with nonprofits too? We do. We work with nonprofits and really bring a different mindset to being able to cultivate those relationships that they need to be successful. So reach out to us about that as well.
Excellent. Well, Sean, I'm looking forward to our conversation tomorrow with Najee.
Yep.
Najee's is really great, and he speaks a mile a minute, and it'll be fun to have him in here with his energy and really his insights into research and how it can really make a difference in your campaign. And then with James Martin on Thursday. So please do check back tomorrow. And around 11 a.m., will be 11 a.m. tomorrow, and then 11 a.m. on Thursday Eastern time for some great conversations with some other great political leaders. Thank you so much for being here today. We really do appreciate it. This has been another episode of Political Trade Secrets.
Join us next time by subscribing on iTunes and get show notes and sign up for our newsletter at politicaltradesecrets.com.